power. I had and you let me know if you agree or disagree with this, right? So to me, it looks like a lot of the propaganda around black spending, and I know you've talked about black spending so much that's why I'm not digging all the way into it, because I know you, everywhere you go, you pretty much talk about it. And I agree with everything you say about the myth of this black buying power. So I didn't, we don't have to dig too deep into it. But I look at the propaganda around black spending, and to me, it resembles a lot the propaganda around the inactivity of black voters. Right now, from what I look at, first of all, if you just look at the numbers, black people are just as active or inactive as pretty much every other group. Right, when it comes to voting numbers, people who are registered to vote versus people who actually show up to vote, it's pretty much similar across the board. With younger people, black people show up more than other races at younger groups, right? And then I also look at cities where a city is pretty much looked at as a black city once we start to approach around 30% black population, right? We don't even need to be 60 or 70% of the population of that city. Once a city is at, like, Atlanta is like 40, and they're like, this is the blackest city ever. We start to run the political landscape of a city once we get to 30% of the population, right? That's not possible unless we are extremely politically active on the local level, right? So you let me know if you agree or if you see the same thing that I've been noticing, where there's a lot of propaganda around telling us that that a lot of our biggest issue is that we just don't vote and we don't care about politics. Do you see that? Do you see similar things?
No, the biggest problem is that either we don't have the outlets through which the vote would be made meaningful, and we don't have enough organized political power to change that fact. So it's not, in other words, the Democratic Party that keeps getting a majority of the black vote is not being hampered from delivering its promises to the black community and to everyone else because black people don't vote enough. The Democratic Party doesn't, as an institution, has no interest in actually addressing the concerns of black or any other people in this country. So they're only there to be a sort of loyal opposition and to have in a place for the ruling elite to have their squabbles. Or as Glenn Ford used to say, it's the place where radical movements go to die. So, yeah, so, black people are not poor. Black people are not poor or oppressed at all because of anything black people have done or are doing.
Right.
So that point, I just think, just needs to be made as clear and as often as possible. Black people and others are oppressed because we live in an oppressive situation. And if we're going to say we haven't done something, we just haven't completed all of the revolutionary processes that others have been trying for a long time, that have been suppressed, particularly in the last generation. But this idea that black people are financially illiterate, lazy, insufficiently engaged in the vote, all of that is nonsense when it comes to an explanation why black people are oppressed. We're oppressed because we're in a colonized relationship with a capitalist society, and a capitalist economy by definition demands this level of exploitation and inequality, and we just haven't figured out the exact path to revolution, and which in part has been made confusing or been confused by all the propaganda over the last 50, 60 years promoting black entrepreneurialism and capitalism as a solution.
Yeah. So and I'm glad you brought up revolution, because this is one of another major issue that we often, and I say we, I'm a little bit younger than your generation, but we as a group for the last 100 years at least, and not even 100 years because we go back to Denmark Vesey and probably even before that, with moles coming into our organizations and dismantling them from the inside for whatever reason, whether they work for the government or maybe because they're self-hating person, or how come, I know why we keep running into it, but how can we combat this? This happens pretty much to every single organization we put in place.
So because I got to go in like 3 minutes, and I'm sorry for that, but I don't have the time to explore that today, but the answer is I don't really know. and that we can only figure that out by being in organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Being disorganized is not a solution to preventing infiltration.
Mm-hmm.
It is and if anything, that's the culmination of successful infiltration, getting people to be disorganized and uninvolved.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to make sure that moles and infiltrators are unsuccessful is to have more of us be involved in organizations and finding the rubrics and the mechanisms and the protocols that will protect those organizations.